Hi, and welcome to our last episode of Black Mirror Banter with Claire. Today we're going to be talking about the Black Mirror episode Nosedive again, but this time we're talking about it in terms of how realistic it would be in today's day and age, how close it is to actually happening. I think this is one of the closest Black Mirror episodes to actually coming true. The two ways that I think it's closest to coming true have to do with the contemporary technologies in the episode and the cultural trends or concerns in the episode relating to contemporary technologies we have in 2020 today and the cultural trends we have in 2020 today. Example number one from the episode, example number one of contemporary technologies from the episode in terms of the Black Mirror world. This shows social media and how it translates in the Black Mirror world. So there we saw that it functions pretty much the same way as social media functions in our world. So this is the example of it in the real world. We all know what Instagram is, and it's very much like what we just saw. We can like other people's content. It's kind of a rating system, and it's where we all connect. And it looks fairly similar to what Lacey was looking at in the episode. Example number two of contemporary technologies in the Black Mirror world has to do with more of the actual implantation of what they see in their eyes. Now, given this is a contact that's in their eyes and not an actual neurological implantation, it still functions in kind of like the same way, and we're putting it in the same kind of wheelhouse. So an example of this in the real world today would be something that Elon Musk has been working on recently. He is trying to develop an implantable brain-computer interface for people who have quadriplegia. Essentially, it would function the same way that Lacey's implant in her eye does, where they can control the scrolling, they can control pretty much everything with their minds, and even give actual commands. It hasn't been fully tested on humans yet, it hasn't been approved, but it's in the works, and it could be something that happens tomorrow. Example number one of cultural trends or concerns in Black Mirror. This has to do with something called cancel culture, which is also prevalent in our culture today, and we can see an example of it here within the rating system that had to do with the social media we mentioned earlier. So there we saw an example of what happens to the people in that society of Black Mirror whenever they drop below a 2.5 on the rating scale. They start to become social outcasts, and that's a form of canceling them from doing things that other people who have higher numbers might get the opportunity to do. all because of certain behavior, certain things they do that aren't considered popular or acceptable. So we have this in our culture too. So this is the real world example of it in 2020. What is cancel culture? What does it mean to cancel someone? And this is the definition of it. And so we see a lot of this happening whenever a famous person says something out of turn, say they say something that's racist or whatnot. You may see a lot of backlash and negative comments about them on social media, saying cancel them, don't buy their music, don't do this anymore. And it could either work or it could either not work. It may give them a negative tone, but people could still buy their music. It's one of those things that's not a sure thing, but it does happen and it does affect people's mentalities and their emotional state of being. So our second example of cultural trends in the Black Mirror world has to do with how these ratings and things keep people from actually even getting jobs or living their actual lives. It's different to just cancel someone, but this has more to do with how it keeps them from functioning as a regular human being. So there we saw that the same guy, Jess, who dropped below a 2.5 earlier, can now not even go inside the building to go to his own job. He's not going to be able to make money, and he's going to suffer more in society. So this is continuing example number 2, but in the real world with that same kind of issue. In Beijing, China, they're doing something very similar where they're creating a social credit system for businesses and for individuals, and it's all about awarding the trustworthy and punishing the disobedient, all based on how these businesses and people act in the world. It keeps them from getting jobs, it keeps businesses from being successful, it keeps people from being socially accepted, and they can't even function in society. Another thing I wanted to bring up, just from a personal standpoint, I am an acting major at Coastal. I'm graduating, and this is big for us as well. A lot of times these days, with how big social media is, you can't even get an acting job if you don't have at least 2,000 followers on Instagram by the time that you're going out for an audition. So we see sites like this pictured here all the time. How do we build our social standing? How do we build our social media in order to get gigs? And I find it to be ludicrous. It's not about the art form anymore, and it's more just about how popular you are. And it actually keeps you from getting jobs. So in conclusion, I think that Nosedive shows a perfect example of what could happen in our world in 2020, even tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow. Social media is already consuming all of our lives in such an impactful way, and before we know it, we're not even going to be able to get jobs because we don't have enough followers on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or what have you. And we're no longer going to function like a normal, empathetic society. This has been the final installment of Black Mirror Banter with Claire. Thanks for watching.